They're there for all of us. We may move along from day to day easily, walking in the sunshine, enjoying the view, feeling at peace. And then it comes, a crossroad, a choice point. There we stand, frozen to the spot. Which way now? Right? Left? Straight? What waits down each of those choices? Which way does our heart call us to go? Which makes sense? Which is God's way? The answers aren't easy. A crossroad can bring daunting spiritual pain, and it can bring us to our knees. It can even bring us to destruction. Today we have an expert on the crossroad. He saw a choice that changed his life. Please welcome Malchus, guard and servant for the high priest in Israel. Can you tell us something about yourself?
Well, I am not an important person. I was never one to call attention to myself. I was a simple servant and guarded the service of the high priest. It was not a glamorous job. I got along. I did my job. I don't really deserve to be in the spotlight. The only thing I have to tell is how my life changed by a simple act of kindness.
You were an important character in the story of Jesus. Can you tell us about that?
I remember seeing Jesus that night in the garden, but I had seen him before. I went with the Pharisees and the other leaders many times when they questioned Jesus, when they were looking to find something to use against him.
How did you feel about that? About the way they approached Jesus?
Well, I didn't mind at first. It was easy to go along with them to find Jesus. In a way, it was better than standing around in the council or slaving for the high priest at his house.
But your attitude changed.
Oh, I heard Jesus' answer. I saw how he dealt with people in need. It began to trouble me that the other leaders were so dead set against him. I didn't see anything wrong with the way he set it up and what he did or said. I guess they thought he was some kind of a threat. Certainly the word got around that his followers wanted to make him a king, start a revolt to kick out the Romans.
And how did you feel about that?
Oh, I had certainly no love for the Romans. They oppressed us, treated us like slaves. But I wasn't sure what would happen to my job as Jesus' followers were successful in putting him on some kind of a throne. I wasn't sure how I felt about that.
And yet you went with the religious leaders to arrest him there in the garden?
It was my job. What could I do? I had to go along. We were expecting trouble. We knew that at least some of his followers were armed. They were feeling threatened and were pretty sure they would resist.
Were you afraid?
Afraid? No. I was trained as a guard by the military. I knew how to protect myself. I knew how to strike with a sword, if it came to that. I lived in that kind of world. In my world, you stood up for yourself. You struck back if you were assaulted. You struck first if you had the chance. I lived in a world where it was every man for himself. I knew Jesus. I heard him speak. But I thought that when it came down to it, he and his followers would fight. And I was ready. And yet something happened that night that changed me. As I expected one of Jesus' followers, I heard later it was Peter, lashed out with a sword and cut off my ear. And I was ready to strike back. That's what I knew. That's how I lived.
And yet you stopped.
Jesus held up his hand. I thought he might call the rest of his followers to strike. But his voice was quiet, gentle almost. I could not move. Jesus reached his hand towards me. I thought he was going to grab me or hit me. Surely I would have in his place. But with great care, he simply touched my ear. Instantly it was healed.
And the touch changed you?
He touched my ear, but in a more important way, he touched my spirit. He was the one who had the power to strike back, to respond the way I was trained to respond, and yet he chose to heal, to care, to love, if you will. Suddenly I saw my life in a different way. It was like a light went off on my spirit. I saw someone live in a way I could not understand.
Tell us about the light.
In an instant, I looked at my whole life. I saw each time I took advantage of another, struck another, hurt another person. I saw the struggle in my life had been and and the choices I made to get ahead. At least as I saw it. And suddenly it all seemed dark and empty. I saw a different way to live.
And how has it changed you?
I'm not much good as a guard anymore. I can't wield my sword in my hand or hate my heart anymore. I saw a way of compassion, of love, and I make different choices now.
Is your life easier now?
Easier? No. In some ways it's harder. But I find the face of Jesus in my eyes when I am tempted to ignore the needs of others. To strike back when I am hurt, to get revenge when I am insulted or injured. I see the face of Jesus as he calls me to make the choice of compassion and mercy. I know this. In Jesus I am forgiven. That dark past is called my new life. I know that Jesus went to the cross for me. He healed me by his death and resurrection, but he did not only heal my ear, he healed my heart.
What message would you leave us?
I'm nobody important. I don't have a great speech to give you, but I know this. When we are tempted to live by the ways of the world, when we are tempted to live in the darkness, we can make a choice to follow the way lighted by Jesus. A light that comes from the truth that we are healed and whole in him. In him we could dare to live in love. And that's the most important message.
As St. Paul said in his letter to the Colossians, "Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony."
That's it. That's the life that's found in Jesus' touch. That's the life I pray for you.
Thank you, Mamas. In our gospel reading for today, you see the confrontation between Jesus and the people who have come to arrest him and eventually execute him very, very painfully. And yet, when one of the disciples pulls out a sword to defend Jesus and cuts off a servant's ear, Jesus immediately stops the violence and heals the injured servant. So, in this scene, there are several actors. So I would ask you to consider for a moment, which of the actors is you? Which of the actors would you most closely identify with? There are the chief priests and the elders of Jerusalem. They have come out to arrest Jesus because he has been making them look bad. He's been undermining morality of the morality of their religion by eating and drinking with extremely sinful people. But worst of all, it sounds like Jesus is planning to raise an army to fight the Romans. And the Romans will absolutely destroy Israel if Jesus kills any Romans. So the elders and the chief priests are simply trying to preserve the status quo and save everyone from a very real destruction. So, are you of that? Are you trying to preserve the status quo? And then there are the temple guards who have come with the chief priests. They are officers, so they know more than most. They know why they're here. But in reality, they are just doing their job. They are just like the men and women who are crunching the numbers for corporate executives. They are just the guys on the line, running the machines, packing the fruit, or making the cars. The temple guards don't really have any any say in what's going on. They just do what they're told. And so they arrest Jesus. Are you one of the temple guards? And then there are the disciples. They often seem pretty clueless themselves. They've been following Jesus. They've seen him do amazing miracles. They have heard him talk about God in ways that they've never heard anyone talk about God. The disciples have heard Jesus talk about forgiveness and this kingdom of heaven or kingdom of God. But he never gets real concrete. The disciples wonder, is Jesus going to be a king? Is he going to put together an army? And when? All he seems to be doing is healing and teaching. When is Jesus going to get on with it? So when the guards come to arrest Jesus, the natural response of the disciples is to defend Jesus. They pull out their swords and clubs and engage in a fight. They're just regular guys defending their master from immediate danger. Anyone would have done the same. Are you one of the disciples? And then there's Judas, the one who betrayed Jesus. He might have thought that he was doing the right thing. He might have thought that Jesus would rise to the occasion, act like a leader, take charge of the situation. Instead, Judas was terribly dismayed at what he had done, acted as a pawn in a drama of life and death. Are you Judas? Or are you Jesus, the Master, the Son of God who is complete control of the situation, the one who lives and dies by compassion, loving and caring for all the world, loving the keepers of tradition, loving the politicians who have to balance the needs of the people with the desires of the powerful. Jesus, who loves the chief priests and the elders of the city, even as they come to kill him. Are you Jesus, who loves the temple guards and the disciples, each trying to do the best that they can, sometimes resorting to anger and violence when they feel threatened? Are you Jesus, who even loves Judas, knowing that Judas will betray him? Are you Jesus, able to love the corporate executives even though you know that they would cut your job in a heartbeat if they thought it served the bottom line? It's just their job, just their part to play in the drama of life and death. I suspect that each of you plays each of the parts in this scene at various times in your life, or even at various times in your day. As the administrator, or the teacher, or the parent, you may play the role of the keeper of tradition, the one who has to make decisions that protect and keep the peace, even if it comes at a price. At times in your life, you may be the person who just carries out the orders of the higher-ups. You have to make a living, and sometimes, while you may not like the decisions, you have to carry them out anyway. At other times, you may simply be trying to figure out what Jesus is doing in your life. Sometimes you do the right thing. Sometimes you react too quickly or say and do the wrong thing. You may well get yourself into trouble once in a while. But you're only human, trying to follow Jesus as best you can. You may even at times have been the betrayer, having done something so bad that you feel like you went directly against everything that you believe in. The blessings in this story is that Jesus understands. Jesus understands your weakness and your strength. Jesus understands why sometimes you do the things that you don't want to do. Jesus understands even when you feel like you have really screwed things up. And Jesus forgives you. Jesus stops the hate and the violence in your heart and mind. And Jesus brings full healing to the wounds that you have done, or even the wounds that have been done to you. Jesus brings healing and hope and new life into all the situations that you live in your daily life. Jesus is always present, bringing healing and hope and life. And at the end of it all, Jesus invites you to step into his role in the story, and for you to bring understanding and forgiveness and healing to all of the people surrounding you in your everyday life.